Today I'd like to talk about how to figure out if your ex is actually interested in you or if they're just responding to you to be nice. Now, usually my go-to tactic when it comes to things like this is the words versus action philosophy, which simply states basically you understand that someone's words don't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Rather, their actions do. So if your ex says one thing but does another, then the thing to pay attention to is what they actually do. But I wanted to tackle this discussion in a little bit more of an in-depth way. So I figured that it would be kind of an entertaining watch for you to actually look at the major signs that an ex will exhibit if they're just responding to you to be nice. Sign number 1, the core 4 with texting aren't present. Now, generally speaking, there are 4 signs that you can look at when it comes to texting an ex that will kind of tell you if things are going well or if things aren't going well. And those 4 signs are as follows. Number 1, your ex's word count eclipses your own. Number 2, the text ratio is equal or better than yours. Number 3, the response time is equal or better than yours. And number 4, the depth of conversation is about topics that both parties find intriguing. Now, I call these the core 4, and generally what you're going to find is when you're trying to get an ex back or you're embarking on a get your ex back type of a campaign, you're going to find that these 4 things are scored really highly. Generally speaking, if all of these 4 things are present, if you are killing it at all 4 things, that usually means you're well on your way to building the rapport necessary to create the circumstances necessary to have the ex come back. So let's take a little bit more of an in-depth look at each of these 4 core signs. So with word count, if your ex is just responding to you to be nice, you're going to find that their word count is going to be far less than yours. In fact, one of the common things that you'll see nice responses do is they'll be nice in responding to you at first, but then they'll start responding to you with one-word text messages. Then, of course, there is the text ratio. And ladies and gentlemen, this is the chart that you need to abide by. Basically, if you are in that not good range, then guess what? It's usually a sign that things aren't going well, and it's usually a sign that your ex is probably just responding to you to be nice. Now, response time is an interesting thing. Now, with response time, I want to tell you a story. Now, I am someone who would be considered as having avoidant tendencies. Like literally right now, there's a friend of mine that wants me to do something for them. I know what they want. I've agreed to do it, and yet I haven't done it yet. And as I was determining what I was going to talk about in this video, this sort of situation came to mind. I guess the thing is, I just don't want to do it right now, so I'm constantly looking and I can see that they've sent me a text message on my phone and I can read part of the text message, but I don't actually open it up because I don't want them to know that I've read it yet. I would prefer just to kind of avoid it until I'm ready to do the action when I'm ready to do it on my own terms. I don't really know why I'm doing this though. It's hard to explain. Now, it's nothing personal against my friend. I don't want to be rude to them. I've agreed that I'm going to do this favor for them, but I'm just not in the mood to do it right now. And so instead, I just avoid. And what I found is I'll respond to them days later after asking for an update, and I'll kind of lie and create an excuse. Here's my point. Exes who are just being nice to you are going to do things like this. They'll respond to you, but sometimes the responses will be crazy long. And then, of course, we have the depth of conversation lacking. So stop me if this sounds familiar. You, hi there. Them, sup. You, did you see the latest episode of insert your favorite show? Them, I did, it was good. You, what was your favorite part? Them, the thing in the room. You, yeah, that was cool. Stuff of legend, right? Not exactly. If this conversation is giving you PTSD, then you're probably falling victim to the depth of conversation issue. Basically, your entire conversations with them or your entire interactions with them can't ever seem to get out of the small talk phase. All right, let's talk about sign number 2. They show no interest in your personal life and make the conversation all about them. Let's say you achieve this amazing thing at work. You post about it all over social media. Everyone congratulates you, even your ex. However, when the time comes to actually converse with them as you're working through the program, this amazing thing you accomplished isn't even mentioned. In fact, the entire time you're talking to them, you find that they don't really ask any questions about you at all. Instead, they're far more focused on their own problems. And one of the things that I do with my coaching clients is I always help them audit their text messages. See, when it comes to relationships, we humans tend to be pretty self-interested. Thus, you're gonna find that a lot of text messages contain the pronouns I, me, my, basically first person. We're talking about ourselves a lot. And so what I'm often doing with my clients when I'm auditing their texts is helping them look and see when they're using the wrong pronouns and how to craft the text so that you're talking about a topic that your ex is going to be a lot more likely to open up in. And usually that topic is themselves. And that usually means you're using a lot of second person pronouns, you know, you, your, things like that. But we can actually turn this logic upside down. Usually when you're talking to an ex who's just responding to you to be nice, they're not going to show a lot of interest in your personal life. They'll respond to you, they'll be nice, they'll do enough to make it seem like they're interested, but whenever they get the chance, they'll steer the conversation to being all about them, all about their problems. You essentially become relegated to becoming an emotional crutch for them. Not a great place to be. Sign number 3, they make the climb up the value ladder impossible. Now, if you're not familiar with my concept of the value ladder, we're about to go really deep. So first off, I want you to take a look at this graphic that I have up on the screen right here. This is the value ladder, and there are really 5 main parts to it. You have the no contact rule, the texting phase, the phone call phase, the meetup phase, and the ask phase. Here's what's interesting, though. I want you to take a look at the graphic now. You're going to see that I've drawn kind of 4 red lines, and these red lines almost represent a barrier. Now, over the years, I've noticed that when it comes time to transition from one phase of the value ladder to the next, there's almost this invisible barrier or this invisible hurdle that you need to jump. Basically, in order to get an ex back, if that's what you want to do, you have to find a way to jump all the hurdles. Here's the thing though, if you're dealing with an ex who's just responding to you to be nice, it will be impossible for you to pass all of the hurdles. At best, they'll let you into the texting phase hurdle, but when you try to transition to a phone call or to a meetup, it just never seems to happen. Now, I don't want you to be confused. Sometimes it's always difficult a little bit to jump these transitionary hurdles, but with someone who's responding just to be nice, it is impossible. They won't let you pass. Let's move on to sign number 4. Sign number 4, they consistently remind you that you are broken up. I'm gonna pull from my personal life for this one. When I was 21 years old, I went on a date with a very nice girl. Now looking back, I was very rude on this date because I felt the need to constantly remind this girl that, hey, we're just friends. But I suppose my reasoning made some kind of sense. My best bud at the time had gotten a date and he wanted to see a movie. He wanted to invite me to the date, but he said, I don't want you to be a third wheel. So if I'm going to invite you to this date, you need to find a girl to go on the date with you so that you don't feel like a third wheel and the date can kind of go off without a hitch. So I go looking for a date and I found one. I asked a girl who was a friend of mine that I had met in a college class. She agreed and I thought to myself, sweet, this is great. But there was a stipulation. Her parents, who she was living with at the time, were incredibly strict. So the stipulation was simple. Her parents would not let her go out on a date, even though she's 21 years old, unless they meet the guy first. So I basically have to meet this girl's 2 parents. Anyways, I met the parents, and the more I met them and the more I kind of realized they started making a bigger deal about this date than it really was meant to be. And it started making me worried that the girl that I was taking on the date would get the wrong idea about the date. So after I met the parents, I began to get insecure. And my insecurity throughout the entire date kept causing me to say, hey, just to let you know, we're just friends. We're just friends. We're just friends. I kind of cringe thinking about it now, but here's the point. If your ex is responding to be nice to you, they're going to find and go out of the way to consistently remind you that you are just friends, that you are just friends, that you are just friends. An excessive amount. It is normal for exes to say this a couple of times. But if they're excessively saying it, like every time you're interacting, yeah, maybe there's some merit to it. Sign number 5. They're breadcrumbing. Now, I'm kind of cheating with this sign because technically the intent of the ex isn't to be nice at all. It's to do something else. So, quick crash course. What is breadcrumbing? Well, breadcrumbing is a tactic used by exes who do just enough to make you think they are interested in re-pursuing a relationship with you, to keep you on the hook, so to speak. However, usually that ex hasn't decided whether they want to pursue you romantically just yet. They're keeping their options open. So what you're often going to see here is the whole mixed signals thing. One minute you're going to think that your ex wants you back, the next minute they're going to disown you. And here we kind of come back full circle. How can you tell if your ex is breadcrumbing you? Well, that's when you start employing the words versus actions theory. Don't pay attention to their words, pay attention to their actions. If they're saying something but doing a different thing, then most likely what they're doing is the true intent behind what they're thinking.